Hey guys, it's Drina G here, and welcome back to Rise and Heal. Last week we talked about solitary and how important it is to self-evolution. This week we're going to talk about codependency. Codependency is a psychological condition that those who suffer from CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, can suffer from, where they kind of like seek approval from partners, relationships of any sorts, whether it's family, friends, or any of the kind. People with codependency issues, they tend to feel like they're always the problem. They always have to like say sorry, apologize for no reason when it's not their fault. They try to make themselves the hero, basically. Now, if you're a codependent person, this might be you, and you may not be noticing. I'm here to help. So how I realized that I was a codependent person at a time is because, yes, I did suffer from kind of always seeking approval, and I always felt like everything was my fault. Hence my last video, I did mention to you that I told my ex, I was just like, why would I expect you to say nobody else stayed for me? Terms like those are kind of terms that come from someone who suffered from any type of PTSD, well, CPTSD, of codependency. Now, I obviously relate everything to my emotions. It could be something of the littlest sorts. I take it more emotionally, hence being also an emotional empath. I take it more emotionally, like I wouldn't have done it to another person. A codependent person also, me personally, I was doing everything I can to make sure my partner was straight, even if it meant like getting rid of things that made me happy, just to make sure they were happy. That means times that I used to spend alone, times that I used to, like when it came to ice skating, I wasn't ice skating as much because I was trying to be under my partner. I had to cook, I had to clean, I had to make sure this person was all right at all times. And it even resorted to losing my dog. Where did codependency start? For me, it was an inner child issue. Not everyone's situation comes from the inner child, but usually it does kind of resort to the inner child. Two traumatic disorders that people can suffer from when it comes to inner child is narcissism or codependency. Now, see, narcissism and codependency actually share common issues, common factors, but both of them are two very different things. Obviously, narcissism are going to come in later chapters, but for now we're focused on codependency. But one thing I do want to let you know that they are alike is because it's both of these disorders are kind of like conditions that make you feel like you're not enough. With a narcissist, it's the insecurities. Same thing with codependency. It's the insecurities. It's like they're kind of hand in hand, but obviously different situation that we will cover in later terms. Now, what made me realize I was codependent? Other than the fact that I was doing it in every relationship where I always put my partner first before my own self, my own health, my own anything. If I didn't eat breakfast, I was making sure my partner ate breakfast. It was the weirdest, crazy thing. I was always making sure I was the hero of my partner's situations at all time, even if it meant putting my situations last or skipping out on work to do so. That felt like sanctuary to me, and if I can get closer and closer to doing that every single day, it would make me feel like I'm needed. That's the problem with codependency. Always feeling like you want to be needed because my inner child wasn't needed. So back in the day when I was young, and now when you go back, I want to let you guys know how this works in life. When you forgive people, you kind of got to do experimentation with it. Don't just sit there and say like, hey, I forgive this person just to forget. Really do some experimentation so you can see where this situation could have stemmed from and why it's a bad thing. That's how therapists work, and that's how coaches work. We find out the whys. Why did this lead up to this? Now, back in the day, when I was a little bit younger, my parents neglected me. It was a very obvious thing, but I don't blame them. I'm not here to bash my parents. They had their own personal traumas that they went through, which we're about to cover, that they went through on their own, put them on survival mode. For example, let's start with my mom. My mom was kind of raised as a middle child in a household where kind of like everyone took advantage of her. She was vulnerable. She always wanted to make sure her father was okay. She was the one who always listened. No matter what was said to her, she always listened. And where she grew up as, it was always like an ideal thing to be married, to be happy. That was like the ideal American lifestyle. Or not even only American, even Caribbean or any lifestyle where it's like traditional, where it's like you have to be married, you have to cater to your husband, you have to this, you have to that. And, the husband does all the work, and you know how the traditional things go. So my mom was always trying to find her love, not looking within herself, because she wasn't raised to that's why it's very important to let your children know, have inner love, because she wasn't raised upon self-love. She was raised upon, you need to find someone to love you so you could get out of my house. That's her own trauma. Now, when you're raised on that, it obviously puts you in a survival method where you can become codependent. My mom suffered from her own codependency conditions, as far as like seeking approval from her dad. She wanted to make sure her dad was proud of her. My grandfather wanted to make sure that that's all he's seen all his children doing. You have to go to school, you have to get married, you have to do this. This is how it's gonna go, and no way other than that. They weren't really raised on self-love, so everybody was to themselves. But then here comes my mom being the one who everyone's taking advantage of, because she wanted love. She wanted love so bad, a little bit of something was enough for her. And I mean, a little bit of nothing was enough. My mom did everything she could to get closer to love, and that, even if that meant marrying people for a green card, because that meant they would need her. There you go, a codependent condition. She's literally doing anything she can to be needed, because she wasn't really needed as a kid. There was too much, in reality, there was too much of other kids in the house. And when you're not needed, you're gonna do other things, especially being the middle child with other children. You're gonna do everything to be the kind of like the star of the show, especially if you're not being shown enough love and you want that love that you once got. Now, my mom married people just to get closer to what love would feel like. And she had many failed marriages that even, affected me in many ways, because she was disappearing away from me and trying to make sure she creates the ideal lifestyle, which I can't blame her, because in her mind, she knew that she didn't want to raise a child without a husband. It didn't seem right to her, because the ideal lifestyle that was printed in her brain needed to play out. My mom ended up going through failed relationships that created, that let her realize later in the future, after having me, after all the failed relationships, that, hey, I may be a codependent person. Now, my father, he is a narcissist parent, but he has his own trauma as well. My father had literally had to grow up on, again, survival mode. The moment his dad died, he literally was forced to immediately go to America. Do whatever you got to do. You have 6 sisters. I believe it's 6 sisters. You have 6 sisters. You're now the man of the household. Get this together. He's only like 16, 17, trying to get his whole life together at an early age, which was really hard for him. I can only understand my dad's pain. After the fact of literally losing your father, you don't even have time to grieve. You're immediately placed on a pedestal where now you're the father of the household. So immediately my dad did not get the love he deserved. His mom didn't have time to give him the love he deserved, because of the simple fact that, hey, who's going to take care of us? You're the only one who's the man. We don't know what we're doing. You do. Help us. So with that moment, it's like, oh my God, okay, survival mode. I'm young, gotta move to America, gotta do what I gotta do to make it. Put these two together, they're perfect for each other, because you have the two broken homes trying to create a structural home, but it's not gonna happen because both are broken in their own way. Now, like I said, we're going to talk more about narcissists, but let me tell you how this affected me. Both my parents are absent. That's where the negligence comes in. Both my parents are absent, and it's like, I'm doing everything I can to get my grandparents' attention, whether it was fighting, whether it was skipping school, whether it was anything. I'm doing everything I can to get someone's attention, because I was lonely at home. I didn't really have much friends, and if I did catch friends, my grandpa was immediately like, hey, you can play with them for a certain amount of time, but I wanted to be with them all day, because I don't have nothing when I go back home. I didn't have love. I miss my mom so much, and I only probably have like one memory of her even hugging me. That's how bad it was. She was very, very gone. But it wasn't her being gone. It was her being gone actually, even emotionally. She wasn't there mentally, physically, financially, or emotionally. So that affected me terribly. Now, I could have became a narcissist, but I did become codependent, which both, like I said, are bad. When I had lived with my father, after a long history of back and forth, losing custody, fights, all of these things, I started to live with my father, thinking that if I lived with my father, I could finally receive love. Here's where the seeking approval came in. One time I got a good grade in school. I was like an A student. I was like, yes, girl, A student slay. I was always an A student, but the first A I got on my report card was the best A I remember in my life. The first A I brought home, my dad gave me a hug. Now, look, my dad don't go blaming my dad, and I'm not here to blame my dad. My dad wasn't raised upon that. He wasn't raised upon, oh my God, come in, hug you, love you, all of that. He wasn't raised upon that. He was raised on survival mode. So he did not know better, you know? And that's his own trauma that he has to heal with, that he has to deal with. We're our own people, you know? You can't blame your parents for things that they put you through. I know it's hard to say, but they probably suffered their own little traumas themselves. So my dad hugged me for the first time ever. He didn't hug me after I left my mom's house, knowing I suffered from molestation, orally rape, and more. I went through a lot, and not only the fact that I'm literally suffering from stress from being around my mother that was never around. You never really came and been that emotional part of my life. I didn't need you there financially. He always thought that it was just like financial, but it wasn't really that. It was the love that I needed. But as a child who wasn't even heard as a kid when I was explaining, I've got touched. Imagine how it is trying to explain to your father that I need love. So it was just like, why do I have to explain how I truly feel and never get heard? So I gave up, you know? So finally I get my first hug after my first A. And when I say it was so warming, I remember it like it was yesterday, like my dad hugging me, being proud of me, and he kissed me on my forehead, and he's like, you keep getting A's, I'm gonna keep surprising you. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Then the next report card on the next quarterly term, I get a bag of chips. See, my dad was a very healthy person. A bag of hot Cheetos is a gift because look, we don't eat like that in our house, you know? So I was kind of in distraught. I mean, yeah, I took the chips, but I was just like, hey, in my mind, I knew I wanted the hug. Like, I want to be hugged. I need to feel it. And the only time I felt it was that one time. And after quarterly, I kept doing everything. Like, I got to bring my dad this A. I got to bring him this A. My codependency condition was building from that point on. It was also building from the moment I was younger, but it was literally building at that point on. I was doing everything to be seen in my father's household because my dad was so busy working, he didn't see me anymore. So when it was time to praise me about certain things, he wasn't there to praise it because not only one, he wasn't raised on that. Two, he didn't know how to be emotionally there for me. His mindset was, as long as I'm there for her financially, I'm good. He wasn't there for me physically. He wasn't there for me in any other parts. And it's not his fault, once again, not here to blame my father. What happens? This boy comes to middle school. This is my first boyfriend ever. Why do I feel the need to save him? They were already telling me he just got kicked out of 3 other schools and he's at this school. I don't know why. That turned me on. It wasn't even his looks. It wasn't nothing. It was like, I need to be his hero. I'm already doing great in school. I can make him better. I know I'll be the perfect one for him. There you go. Ding, ding, ding. That is raising a red flag that I don't even notice, because people who's codependent, they don't notice red flags. Codependency usually comes from child neglect, but it can come from any other situation as well. But majority of the time, it's usually child neglect or any other things that force the parents or the caregiver not to be there, whether it's they were sick on the bed, whether they passed away, whatever the situation was that your caregiver wasn't there for you, it caused you to develop codependency skills, which, same thing for narcissism, can happen as well. So now at this point, I realized at my older age that, wow, at my last relationship, healing is very important because it will shut down the codependency skills. You will start to realize that red flags exist. You won't be sorry for things that you didn't create no damage to and you didn't cause. I used to apologize even if stuff wasn't my fault, and that is something I need to shut down because I wanted to be the savior. I wanted to be the hero. So I knew that it comforted others to hear sorry. Who doesn't like to hear sorry? Even if it's not your fault. I'm so sorry. You just got cheated on. I'm so sorry. You're not at fault. It's better to replace "I'm sorry" with "that's unfortunate." I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, that's different. But try using it. Give it a little bit, 1% at a time. Try using the words "that's unfortunate," because "that's unfortunate" is a better way to remove you from being the blame. And this is only for codependency people. If it works for those who are not codependent, go ahead, go with it. But codependency people do suffer from that "I'm sorry" all the time, because they feel the need to apologize to either one, take the blame for others' traumas or situations that they're going through. Codependency people are perfect for narcissists. Codependency people are perfect for narcissists because you're the enabler. I know that's hard to hear, but you're the reason why they keep going. You're their supply. And when you start to snap out of it, because after a certain point, see, a codependent person is going to be like, I'll give them chance after chance and not notice to stop the red flag when the red flag is there. So a codependent person is perfect for narcissists because they already catch it. They're like, oh, here's my vulnerability. I need that. I need that because, hey, I need someone to praise me and tell me it's not my fault, even though it's my fault. I need someone to tell the world I'm the most perfect thing and handle my situations for me so I don't have to stress about it anymore. A narcissist loves that. Don't be a codependent person. Try to heal that part of yourself, because once you're codependent, once you have that condition stuck inside of you, it's kind of like you don't notice when a narcissist is taking advantage of you. So with me and my relationship, my partner made me handle everything when it came to her. And you know, she convinced me, narcissists love to manipulate. She convinced me that obviously I'm helping her in a way, and not only that, I have to prioritize her because she's my partner. Why wouldn't I prioritize her? And my idea, my mindset, here comes me thinking like my mom. I thought if I did everything to show her that she needs me, she wouldn't have to leave me. Because why would you leave me if I'm basically the perfect thing you need? I'm literally the woman who cooks for you, the woman who is your assistant, the woman who takes care of you. I'm a caregiver if you need it. I'm anything that you imagine. They don't care. I know what you're thinking. You're like, I want to be the perfect person for my partner. I want to cater to them at all times. I want to cater to yourself first. Confidence is key. Cater to yourself. Put yourself first. Put your worth first. And that's how you break the codependency condition. Narcissists don't like that. And when they start to notice that, hey, you're starting to notice that I'm taking advantage of your vulnerability, I don't like it. Why are you noticing? You're supposed to need me. You're supposed to need me. You need me. You need me. I know you need me. That's how a narcissist is thinking. And when they're like, oh no, she doesn't need me anymore, you're starting to realize it, because codependency, one thing about it, codependency people start to realize at a certain point that, hey, it's time. Something's not making sense, because you're reaching that level of pain. And you're going to start realizing, hey, I don't like that. It hurts. Because you know, after it keeps hitting you, imagine something keep flicking you in the head, You're like ignoring it. At a certain point, you're going to pay attention to it. At a certain point, you're going to be like, oh, shoot, I don't like that. Can you stop? So codependency people do realize there's a stopping point. They're like, oh, okay, I got to stop and figure out what the problem is, and I have to change it. So at that point, a narcissist doesn't like that, because at that point, your eyes is opening up that view to notice the things you didn't notice before, and you start losing admiration for that person that you once needed. A narcissist hates that. They want to be the only thing in your life, and they want to be the most important thing in your life. So the moment that you show them that you're no longer important, you have to go. They're gonna realize it before you realize it's time to go. Believe it or not, they know. That's why with my relationship, I was bombed. I was love bombed with. Obviously, they love bomb me in the perfect way. Here's another thing I try to tell everyone. Don't tell your new relationships what you went through in your last relationships. Move on. Just tell them you learned and move on. Nobody needs to know what happened before, because especially if they are a narcissist, they will use it to manipulate you. And especially if you're a codependent person getting in a relationship, you will use it to be there for them. It's not a good mix. Do not tell what happened in your last relationship. Keep it as for you. If you want to talk about it, talk about it. If you believe in God, talk about it with God. Or if you are a friend or anybody you could vent to, or write it in a journal. Do not talk about it with your next partner. It's not their business. Learn how to be sacred with those things, because they will use it against you. Codependent people, when they start to ring that bell for narcissists, they don't want you anymore. And they're going to cut you off at a point, because they're going to realize, hey, she knows too much. Why am I, So that's what happened to me. I was love bombed at a state where I was vulnerable. I came to my partner. I'm like, hey, this is what happened in my last relationship. And I don't know, because I did this, that, the third for my girlfriend. That's literally triggering the narcissist. Hold on. She's vulnerable. I didn't even tell her a single thing about me. That's one thing narcissists not going to do. Narcissists know better. They're never going to tell you too much about themselves, because they know not to. But a codependent person would. They're an open book. They want you to know every single thing about them, so you could try to be a little nicer to them and have a little bit of a change of heart. But unfortunately for a narcissist, that's nothing but an open door for them to manipulate and embarrass you in the long run. It was an open book to my partner, and I was literally telling her everything about me that didn't need to be said at all times. She knew everything about me, but did I know much about her? Probably when I was about to get closure, which I never really got closure, but that's when, probably a year later, I finally found out the truth about who I was really dealing with. You never gonna get that, okay? Narcissists know what the hell they're doing. They know, and they're aware. I'm literally telling her, I'm literally canceling my plans when it came to ice skating. I haven't ice skated in probably 6 months. I stopped things that I used to put my time and my all into, just to make sure I put my all and my time to her. And when it came to carrying on my nail salon and my swimwear store, I was literally juggling between what was right and what was wrong. But not once did my partner ever focus on what makes me happy in reality. Because in reality, what made me happy was being loved. And as long as she showed me a little bit of a drop of love, she's like, got her. It didn't matter if she didn't feel it at all. She knew that if she showed me a little bit, because that's what I needed. I needed love, because I didn't have self-love. And one thing about it, a narcissist could tell when another person does not have self-love, because baby, they don't have it either. So they could tell. So at that moment, I'm giving my all to my partner, and I'm giving me less. And that's where I knew I was codependent. But I didn't notice it, because it took, like I said, where you hit rock bottom. Let's think about what rock bottom is. Rock bottom is obviously the term used in an addiction, where it's like you have a condition or addiction or a disorder, and it's like you hit that pain, it drops. Like, I hit too much pain, and it's like something's wrong here. Narcissists don't like that, so then that leaves a flight for them to go, but it leaves for you to open doors for you to heal. Thank you guys for watching. I kind of want to wrap this up. It looks like the weather's about to change into storms. And, living in Florida, you don't know what to expect. So I do want to thank you. Next week, we're still going to continue on codependency, because there's so much to talk about. And if you feel like this is you, or if you feel like you're suffering from any of these terms or things that I'm talking about, please give this a video thumbs up. If you feel like there's something you want me to talk about, please give comments, feedbacks in the comments. Let me know. What do I need to address? What do I need to tackle? But either way, I'm going to tackle everything. I'm going to make sure I hit everything in the book. Trust and believe. Now, thank you for watching Escape with Drina and Rise and Heal.